That was an incredibly quick coffee break, but that's because we have such good content. So hopefully you're all back and ready to go. Laveena Shetty is up next from BDO UK, and she's going to be talking about open source intelligence and how it can be used to support intelligence investigations. But she's going to do a much better job of introducing herself now. So I'm going to be quiet and let Shetty run with it.
Hi, I'm Laveena Shetty, and I work as a threat detection and response analyst at BDO UK. Today, I'm going to be doing a presentation on open source intelligence and its use in incident investigation. A little bit about myself. I work in the detect and response function of the CISO office at the BDO UK LLP. I am responsible to ensure timely and effective management of security events, investigate cyber incidents, identify root cause, follow up actions to avoid recurrence, and ensure all identified incidents are managed to a satisfactory conclusion. I have a master's degree in information security from Royal Holloway, University of London. On an average, in the online world, the amount of data that has been created per day stands at 1.145 trillion megabytes. And every human apparently created at least 1.7 megabytes of data per second in 2020. And we have created around 2.5 quintillion bytes every day in 2020. These are the statistics as of 18th of May, 2021. And when we say 2.5 quintillion, mind you, there are 18 zeros in quintillion. That's a lot of raw intelligence that has been created every day by users, organizations, governments, consumers, and content producers. Gathering this publicly available information and converting the raw data into actionable intelligence is a daunting task, and that's where open source intelligence comes into play. What is OSINT? Open source intelligence, or OSINT, is a multi-factor, qualitative, quantitative methodology for collecting, analyzing, and making decisions about data accessible in publicly available source to be used in an intelligent context. And when we say publicly available sources, we are talking about 6 categories of information flow. 1, the traditional media, that includes print, radio, television, new media, everything on the internet, such as online news, social media, blogs, forums, online forums, public government data, that includes reports, budgets, hearings, telephone directories, press conferences, professional and academic publications like journals, academic papers, dissertations, and theses. Commercial data, that includes commercial imagery, financial and industrial assessments. And finally, gray literature, such as technical reports, patents, working papers. So now these types of OSINT investigation methods are available. There are 3 types of OSINT investigation methods are available to convert this huge volume of data into relevant, actionable intelligence. And these 3 are, as you can see on the slide, passive method, semi-passive method, and active method. Passive approach basically concerns itself with collecting information from various third-party sources. The investigation is done from a distance, hence the risk of being detected is low. This is also the frequently used approach amongst OSINT investigations. However, the disadvantage of this approach is that there is always the risk of information not being up to date. The flip side to this is, in the absence of real-time data, historical data comes in handy to carry investigations. Then there is semi-passive approach. Semi-passive approach masquerades itself as normal activity. In this approach, reconnaissance activity resembles normal internet traffic and targets servers to obtain information. Main objective of this approach is to not draw attention to the investigation process. However, this approach also prevents the investigator from carrying out an in-depth investigation. And finally, an active approach. Active approach interacts with the target directly and collects real-time information about the target. Active approach activities typically include accessing open ports, scanning vulnerabilities, web server applications, and more assets. Information collected in this approach is real-time, up-to-date, and often accurate. This active approach will definitely leave digital footprint on targets, IDS, and IPS systems, alert the target about intelligence gathering activities, and prompts the target to shut down external access to their data. This might even prompt the target user to start counter investigations and go on a deep analysis as to who are accessing their systems or accessing their open ports. Investigations such as active, passive, and semi-passive investigations are usually part of wider incident management life cycle that includes steps such as preparation, which means establishing right tools and resources. Second step is detection and analysis, which means accurately detecting and assessing incidents, analyzing incidents. Containment, eradication, and recovery, which typically includes minimizing incident impact and mitigating disruptions. And finally, post-incident activity, which includes providing a simple unifying message for what is to come. However, OSINT in gathering is primarily useful in the preparation, detection, and analysis steps of the incident response process. In the typical OSINT cycle, you would first identify the source. That is where you can find information from, where you can glean the data from, and then harvest that relevant data from the identified source. You're basically separating the wheat from the chaff. In offensive security process, this information could be about an organization's infrastructure, such as IP addresses, host names, services, networks, software, hardware, databases, technical papers, and email metadata, and as well as users' personally identifiable information. Now, the next step is to process the acquired data and obtain relevant information. You analyze and correlate information obtained from multiple sources and then create a report about specific actionable intelligence. Now, taking 2 steps back, in one of our previous slides, we spoke about the huge volume of information we have to contend with in open source intelligence. We definitely require tools to deep dive into this ocean of digital information and extract actionable intelligence to serve a specific investigative function. There are many popular OSINT tools such as Whois, NSLOOKUP, Multigo, The Harvester, Shodan, many, many more. But this OSINT framework ties all of these tools together. The framework contains a collection of open source tools for information gathering and investigation in one place, and the tools have been neatly categorized according to the function they serve. I could always make a slide on the most popular OSINT tools, but the reality is choosing the right OSINT tools really depends on what your objectives are, your business requirements, and most importantly, is that tool providing, asking the question that, is that tool providing me the relevant actionable intelligence? Purely from a defensive security perspective, there are some obvious benefits. First is OSINT tools helps you to discover public-facing assets that could help IT teams in mapping what these assets contain and anticipate a potential attack surface. Secondly, OSINT tools will help discover relevant information outside the organization's tightly defined network perimeter. Finally, OSINT tools also help to collate discovered information into actionable intelligence, which in turn helps to prioritize serious issues. Here, I wanted to sort of do a demo on how this OSINT framework works. I want to check an IP address. I want to go to the previous slide here and click OSINT framework. Yeah, and I want to basically check the reputation of an IP address. So here, if I click IP address, and if I click reputation and click IP void basically opens, it's an open source tool. So I want to check if a particular IP is blacklisted, because I want to see if this is a known bad actor. So I'm going to sort of, 165.56.182.21. I want to test this IP address. Let me click check IP address. Of course, this IP has been blacklisted by IP void, and when we scroll down, we'll obtain additional information, reasons for why this IP has been blacklisted. If we click this, JustSpam also happens to be an open source tool. Yeah, this IP address has been involved in various spamming activities. Going back to our presentation, this was a simple example on how to use the OSINT for incident investigation. When we were sort of, when we were checking that IP void, we could see that this IP address has been blacklisted, and it's definitely a malicious IP address. Using a proactive mitigation approach, we want to apply a block on this IP address to prevent it from accessing our systems. Another OSINT tool that is widely used is VirusTotal. I'm going to demonstrate in my next slides how I use VirusTotal for effective detection and response. Yeah, of course. It's time for an example now. You are an incident investigator, and consider a scenario where you have received an alert that a user has browsed a shopping website that may contain malicious files embedded in it. And here, the example is www.getthegloss.com. And as our next investigation step, let us run this URL in the open source tool, virustotal.com. VirusTotal here says that no security vendors has flagged this website, this URL as malicious. However, to the right of that green circle, you also see that it says that this website has embedded files that have been detected as malicious. Being proactive investigators that we are, we want to know more about these files, and to do that, we click the Relations tab. And now what we see here is that there are 4 files that have been detected as malicious, 3 PDFs and 1 gzip file. Let us investigate further and click the file at the top, which is obviously a clickbait, which says, like 10 tips the French use to sort of, go on a diet, that sort of thing. And those clicks, at least most people I know in my social life would click on a link like that. It's obviously a clickbait. So basically what we are going to do is, as we can see that at least 10 security vendors have flagged this file as malicious. Obviously, the security vendors say that this file is a Trojan. And this document that is dishing out the dieting advice in what you call a clean, hidden in a clean website is a confirmed malicious file. Apart from this, there were 3 more files, right? So we'll take another example. The next file. This also was another PDF that was embedded in this website. And obviously, this has also been confirmed malicious by the security vendors. Purely from a detect and response point of view, what we have done here is we have used OSINT tools, and we have essentially confirmed that this website contains files that are confirmed malicious. at least there were 4 files, 3 PDFs, and 1 gzip that were confirmed malicious. Now, what should be our containment and mitigation strategy? The containment and mitigation strategy is obviously to grab the hash of these files, which VirusTotal helpfully gives, and block these hash values in our IT estate so that these files are not downloaded by the users. Now, let us extend. Let's take this example further. The user here has browsed a harmless sounding restaurant website, and we have received an alert that this website may contain a malicious JavaScript file. So we grab the URL, the restaurant website's URL, and then we test that in VirusTotal. We can see that one security vendor has flagged this link as malicious. Okay, one security vendor has flagged this malicious, but we want to know more about that jQuery file that has been flagged. We want to investigate further and test the behavior of this JavaScript file. So let us grab the hash value of this JavaScript file and test it in OSINT. So here, this is where we obtain the the SHA value of that particular JavaScript file. And next, we run that JavaScript file in VirusTotal. That is a big alert. 19 security vendors have flagged this JavaScript file as malicious. And this file is practically a Trojan. Now we have to put our detect and response hat on. Using OSINT tool such as VirusTotal, we have confirmed that this JavaScript is malicious. There is no doubt about that. 19 security vendors have flagged this file as malicious. Now, our containment and mitigation strategy should be to take that hash value which we tested, and then this hash value has to be blocked in various tools like your AV, your web proxies, etc., on our IT estate, so that the users, even unwittingly, do not download this file. And obviously, as a responsible incident investigator, all these artifacts have to be documented to produce a final report. As you can see, that what we have been doing so far is to play with an easy to understand, intuitive OSINT framework, and then carry out some tests using an OSINT tool such as VirusTotal. These were simple exercises where we saw how OSINT tools are effective in detecting malicious IP address, files, and suspicious websites, and what we can do to prevent our IT estates from being affected by taking appropriate mitigation measures. From an incident investigator's point of view, these tools are useful and provides actionable intelligence to work with. Having said that, open source intelligence has some general benefits to cater for a wider audience. First general benefit would obviously be that it is less risky. Collecting important information online is a low-risk operation compared to the human asset on ground to collect intelligence. In all these espionage operations, you would see that the agents are on the ground and they are collecting information. They are doing information reconnaissance. And more often than not, such activities are really expensive and high risk. But when you have an OSINT tool, an open source tool, this could be done at your desktop using your laptop, and the risk is practically null. The second general benefit of OSINT is that it is cost effective. Commercial software spy satellites are all expensive undertakings. The organizations, the nation states invest a lot of money into spies and spy satellites to collect information. They are generally expensive. But whereas collecting intelligence with OSINT tools is practically free, it is cost effective. The next is ease of accessibility. We have seen that OSINT tools are available everywhere. These tools can be obtained in one click, and they are available 24/7. And finally, there are no legal complications. Since the information is publicly available, publicly accessible, there is no fear of this copyright license violation. And finally, to conclude, going back to my original thought about the amount of data that we generate since past few years, it's been quite some time we have been facing an information explosion phenomenon. And thankfully, there are tools that helps us to manage this beast, this explosion, and extract relevant information that we could use. A combination of various OSINT tools could be an effective approach to intelligence gathering. Not every OSINT tools needs to be used. You could mix and match depending on what you want to achieve. Obviously, as I said before, a combination of various OSINT tools could be an effective approach to intelligence gathering, incident investigation, and resolution. Having an awareness of various OSINT tools and an understanding of how to use these tools will definitely help to contain security events, reduce the attack surface, and improve overall security posture of organizations. I want to conclude my presentation and thank you for listening to me. We can always connect on LinkedIn. And of course, I want to thank the CRESTCon for giving me an opportunity to talk about open source intelligence and its use in incident investigation. Thank you.
Laveena, I want to thank you for that. I am a massive OSINT geek. I think it's totally underrated and a skill set that isn't fully appreciated, which actually brings me on to the first question that we've got on the panel. And it looks like it's somebody that works in a different industry and is looking at getting involved in intelligence. But in terms of me spinning that round into open source intelligence, what sort of courses, trainings or certifications are good for OSINT?
I mean, the way I sort of, started using OSINT is while working. And that's pretty much how I've been sort of, learning about OSINT tools as I've been investigating the incidents. Mm-hmm. Tools such as this, because it's there widely available, and even a tool such as Multigo, like when you sort of start using it, there are tutorials there. Something like VirusTotal, it's very intuitive. And Abuse IPDB, you don't need any major learning there. It's when you look at it, you know what to do. So basically, these tools are not only sort of free, useful, resourceful, but also very easy to learn. The learning curve is not very steep. So I would say that, the approach that worked for me was learn as you go, depending on the instance, because there are so many OSINT tools, and it really depends on the objective, what you're trying to achieve and which tool would be most useful to you. So yeah, for me, it was learn as you go kind of an approach.
Okay, that's great. So whoever asked that question, I'd also probably point out, just like a lot of the OS tools being free, there's so much free training out there as well. Exactly. Organizations like Cybery, YouTube is just packed of demos on pretty much every single OSINT tool that you can even think of. If you actually want to get a stamp on a piece of paper to prove to somebody so you can go off and get jobs. Don't just think about cyber threat intelligence. OSINT is across all intelligence domains. So there are so many really quite reasonably priced courses out there that you can do if you want that little bit of certificate as well. Which for me is one of those areas within OSINT which is quite important as well. And that is operational security. Laveena, have you got any advice on how people can do OSINT, especially more of the active elements and potentially interacting in some of the forum collection areas, how they can do OSINT safely and securely?
The thing is, OSINT with like the SANS course, it just occurred to me that there's SANS do a very good course on OSINT. But answering to the specific question about how it can be used safely and securely, it's most of the OSINT tools are generally safe, and there is nothing too much to worry about. It is legal, as much as that malicious actors use for reconnaissance activities, etc. But still, these tools are generally legal, and a user doesn't have to worry too much about the legal implications of using an OSINT tools. So I would say that these tools, whenever I use OSINT tools for incident investigation, I use your regular browsers and regular sites, regular search engines. I would say it is reasonably safe to use OSINT tools. It is safe, yes.
Okay, as long as, would you say predominantly if you're operating in a mostly passive, not interacting with
exactly
setting up sock puppets or looking at samples or anything like that?
Yeah,
for sure. So just sticking in that bit as well, I think it's a question I always love because we all want to know what everyone uses. If you had to give me your top 3 favorite OSINT tools or resources or sources, what would they be?
I use Abuse IPDB a lot. And as I demonstrated, I use VirusTotal a lot, actually. So these are my top favorite tools. But purely because it helps me to resolve incidents purely from incident investigation point of view. Google is I would say that it's Google and Google Docking. It's really useful. It is effective and it is useful for information reconnaissance especially. So yes, I would say these 3 are my top tools. And Shodan, of course, to play with. It's fun.
Okay, of course. Now we're going to bring this to a close, Laveena. Is there any other final points that you would like to make to the audience?
What I wanted to say, I have said that in the presentation. And also is one of those tools that is that could be especially for people who are trying to get into cybersecurity. These are the tools that one could use to really learn and understand how the cybersecurity industry, both offensive and defensive security, works, and get an understanding of how the whole of the cybersecurity operations happen in real life, to a certain extent at least. So I would say one should start with this and reap the benefits of OSINT tools available out there.
That's super. Thank you very much.